Bibliophiles of the internet, my name is Audrey, and today I'm here to give you 5 reasons to read Miss Meteor by Anna Marie McLemore and Tehlor K. Mejia. So Miss Meteor is an own voices, queer Latinx contemporary story with just a touch of magical realism about the small town of Meteor, New Mexico, where cornhole is the reigning sport of choice, and one of the biggest town events is the annual Miss Meteor pageant. Lita Perez is a fat beauty queen made of stardust, and Chiqui Quintanilla is a butch pansexual outcast in a family of 6, and there has never been a Miss Meteor who looks like either one of them, but that's not going to stop these 2 ex-best friends from teaming up to try and win the pageant for themselves. Content warnings for incurred bullying, homophobic comments and slurs, xenophobic comments, and some mentions of underage alcohol consumption. I love this book. It made me feel so many things, all of them good. It's such a joyous, affirming story that I genuinely believe in so much, so to boil it down to just 5 reasons is quite the task, but we're gonna do it, so let's get into it. Reason number 1 is that this story does such a good job of capturing those small town vibes. The fact that this takes place in a small town is so integral to the story because those are very close-knit communities that are often very steeped in their traditions and who want to preserve those traditions. Meteor is definitely the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where news can spread from one corner of the town faster than you can pick up a phone, where the entire town can fit in a high school stadium, and you really feel that closeness in all of the details. And that setting is such an important counterpoint to these 2 main characters because they definitely stand out from everyone else and they decidedly do not fit into the town's aesthetic. So you definitely get a feel for Meteor as a small town for better or worse. It's the kind of place where people like Chiqui and Lita have to do a lot of work to solidify their existence, but it's also the kind of place where one hometown victory can make the entire night feel magical, and putting yourself out there can really bring you a sense of togetherness. Like everything in the world, there's pros and cons to small town life, but that sense of community is so integral to everything happening in this story, and you really feel it coming through on every single page. Reason number 2 is that this story celebrates queer characters being 100% themselves. As I kind of touched on in the last reason, small town life and visible queerness don't always go hand in hand, especially in terms of safety and support, but nonetheless, this story features 2 unapologetically queer characters. Chiqui, as I mentioned, is pansexual, which is incredible because we never get pansexual representation, much less get to see the word pansexual actually in a book, but it's used here correctly several times. And also the boy Lita has a crush on, whose name is Cole, is openly trans, which was also really wonderful to see, especially because he's definitely not newly out. The way both of them are navigating this pageant season is also especially interesting because the town itself is almost divided into this binary of guys play cornhole and girls do the pageant. Cole actually does play cornhole, but he also comes from this legacy family of pageant winners, and then Chiqui identifies as a girl but is definitely more butch mask leaning, and she has no interest in entering the pageant. I think in a story like this, it would be so easy to have these queer characters conforming to the small town norms, or to have Chiqui change herself for this pageant, but both Chiqui and Cole refuse to be anyone but themselves. It's not an easy choice. It comes with a lot of things they have to navigate, and they're both at 2 very different points in their journey, but their vibrancy and their authenticity is something I really appreciate. Like, where else can you get a book about a pageant in a small town where you see a trans guy talking about packing and a pan girl who's not afraid to like whoever she likes? That kind of rep is just priceless. Reason number 3 is that this story is about a group of friends trying to change their town without changing themselves. I think this is why the pageant is such an interesting plot device, because pageants come with certain conventions and expectations, right? There's a ball gown portion, a talent portion, a question portion, and you kind of know what it takes to win those categories. And furthermore, we definitely know what kinds of people tend to win these pageants, so the expectation is already set. And especially for Chiqui and Lita, who are brown Latinx girls, they would normally be more likely to work the pageant than to actually be in it. So every stage of the competition feels like an obstacle because Lita is expected to look a certain way, act a certain way, speak a certain way, but she's only willing to do it in a way that's true to herself, no matter what anyone else thinks. And like I said, it would be so easy for these characters to try and make themselves fit into these standards, especially when it comes to winning the pageant, but they always find a way to stick to their guns and be themselves. It's also really fun to see what they come up with throughout the competition because it's always something so different from what everyone expects. And also, outside the pageant, you see how these characters refuse to let other people shame them for who they are. They stand up for themselves, they stand up for each other, and they won't stand for anyone talking badly about them or their friends. There's something so cathartic about the way they intercept these really harmful comments and then actually tell the person, okay, here's why the thing you just said sucked, and here's why you're never gonna say it again. There's something really powerful about knowing that these characters would be embraced and more loved if they were to be something else besides themselves, if they could change themselves to fit a simpler narrative, and yet no matter how tempting that may be, they refuse. Related to that, reason number 4 is that we get to see these characters embracing their own power and their own happiness. The Miss Meteor pageant is such a public-facing event. It's literally about performing publicly for the audience, for the judges, for your fellow contestants, and it just puts you in a hyper-visible space. That is really powerful, I think, because Lita, Chicky, and their friends have all experienced this urge to hide themselves and make themselves small because it's so much easier for people to target what's different. So I really love that Lita goes into the pageant not because winning is her ultimate goal, but because she wants to make the town see her for everything she is, for her awkwardness, her strange sensibilities, her fatness, her brownness, and to celebrate her because of it. It's about these characters finally stepping into their own light, amplifying everything about themselves that makes them different and special, and really leaning into everything that is true about themselves. Both Lita and Chicky have spent so many years being isolated and lonely, trying to dampen everything about themselves just to get by, but going through this pageant together is making them realize that they deserve so much more than that. They have denied their truth and their happiness in order to make other people comfortable, and now they're refusing to deny themselves that happiness for even one more second. Taking hold of your life in that way and actively deciding to lead with joy is such a powerful choice in a way I can't even fully express. And reason number 5 is that the story celebrates a wonderful friend group who make each other stronger in so many ways. Miss Meteor is an incredibly affirming story, and I think that's because these characters take so much joy in their friends. It's so satisfying to see them get to that point because they start off the story very isolated, very separate from each other, each of them minding their own business and just trying to quietly exist, and they slowly come to realize that these are the people they want in their lives. They really lend each other their strength, their patience, their joy, and I just think it's so rare and beautiful to see such loving and generous friendships. And to be able to actually see them tell each other that they are loved and valued and needed is really an empowering experience. To realize that you need other people and are needed in return is so incredibly powerful, and it's really amazing to see how these friends hold each other down and show up for each other no matter what. In a world that is so often scary and uncertain, to have people you implicitly trust is a really beautiful thing, and I'm so glad those kinds of relationships and friendships are celebrated in this book. So those are just 5 reasons to read Miss Meteor. I seriously was not able to capture even half of what makes this story so amazing. It has second chance friendship, friends to lovers ×2, beauty pageant shenanigans, small town heroics, and so much more. It comes out on September 22nd, and I highly recommend it. If you have read Miss Meteor yourself, or if you plan to in the future, I would love to hear from you down below in the comments, or since we're currently in Latinx Heritage Month, I would love to know which Latinx books you plan to read next. But that's everything I had for this review and recommendation today. Until next time, educate yourself, be kind to yourself, take care of yourself, and I will catch you on the flip side of the page.